There is a truth that countless women carry within themselves, often without ever daring to name it. And yet this same truth holds the power to rearrange an entire inner landscape. Those who are called too solitary, too inward, too accustomed to their own quiet, are not lacking anything essential. Quietly, almost imperceptibly, they are becoming someone. And it is precisely this becoming that unsettles men who have not yet learned to love, while drawing toward them, like a silent gravitational pull, those rare beings capable of recognizing a real presence. Maybe you have already felt this without finding the words, this strange impression that the more you became yourself, the more certain people drifted away, while others, fewer, deeper, finally seemed able to truly see you. Carl Jung had named this phenomenon almost a century ago, in a language that modern psychology is only beginning to rediscover. He called it individuation, that long inner labor through which a being slowly becomes what they truly are, without masks, without escape routes, without emotional dependency, dressed up as love. What I am about to share with you in the coming minutes is neither a recipe, nor a promise, nor a consolation. Consider it instead a slow and careful reading of what happens in the depths when a woman has crossed solitude without breaking inside it. A truth, perhaps, that you already carry, even if no one has yet given you the words for it. Picture for a moment a woman returning home one winter evening. The house is silent, and this silence no longer weighs on her. Years ago, that same silence would have filled her with a muffled anxiety, the kind of unease known only by those who have spent decades trying to escape their own company. But tonight, she sets down her keys, removes her coat, and something within her is still. This is not resignation, nor is it pride. It is simply that she no longer feels alone in her own presence. And this woman, in this exact moment, has crossed a threshold that most human beings never reach. She has stopped being a stranger to herself. This invisible transformation, almost undetectable from the outside, changes absolutely everything in the way others perceive her, and especially in the way men encounter her. Within each of us lives a form of perception that the rational mind never fully masters. We sense, in the very first seconds of an encounter, whether the person before us is inhabited or hollow, anchored or drifting, at peace or in flight. Jung spoke of the shadow, that part of ourselves we refuse to look at, that we project onto others, that we flee in noise, in hurried relationships, in emotional dependency. Most women, and most men as well, spend their entire lives avoiding this confrontation with their own shadow. Partners are chosen not for who they are, but for what they allow us to avoid. A woman who has not learned to be alone will often select a man who distracts her from herself. Attachment will be confused with love, need with desire, fear of emptiness with the feeling of being alive. This can last for years, and sometimes for an entire lifetime. But for some, a moment arrives when this mechanism breaks. Often it comes after a rupture, a grief, a betrayal, or simply a deep weariness of lying to oneself. Such moments are rarely chosen, they impose themselves. It begins with a sleepless night, with a question that no longer lets itself be pushed away, with a strange feeling of foreignness toward one's own life, and within that crack, the real work begins. Solitude, when it is consciously traversed, is not a deprivation. Rather, it becomes a silent school. In this school, one learns to distinguish what comes from oneself from what comes from others. With slow and sometimes painful clarity, one discovers which fears truly inhabit us, which desires are genuinely our own, and which have been borrowed from family, from culture, from ancient wounds. A woman who walks through this school without drowning inside it comes out transformed, not harder, not more suspicious, denser. This is the right word. She acquires a psychic density that can be felt in the way she walks, speaks, Looks. Seduction is no longer necessary to her existence. Approval is no longer needed for her dignity. Like the deep water of a mountain lake, she has become something that surface winds can no longer disturb. Believe me when I tell you that such a quality never goes unnoticed. Here is what most people fail to understand. Superficial men and deep men do not search for the same thing, and that is precisely why they react so differently to a woman who has met herself. A superficial man, and by that I do not mean cruel or unintelligent, but simply a man who has not yet done his own inner work, looks in a woman for what he cannot find in himself. Completion is what he seeks. He looks for a mirror that gives him back a flattering image, a presence that soothes his anxieties without forcing him to face them. Faced with a whole woman, with someone who does not need to be completed, he feels strangely destabilized. Something within her reminds him of what he is running from inside himself. Rather than welcoming this, he steps back. He will say she is too much, too independent, too intelligent, too inward, too difficult. The truth is that she is not too much. She is simply too much for him at this point on his road. And this has nothing whatsoever to do with her. A deep man functions according to an entirely different inner logic. At some moment in his life, he has crossed his own night. His own shadow has been met. He knows the value of that inner silence that can only be earned at the cost of a long crossing. When he encounters a woman carrying that same quality of presence, recognition happens instantly, not with the mind, with something older, more accurate. This is what Jung called the meeting of the unconscious, that rare moment when two beings recognize each other as equals before they have even truly spoken. What this man seeks is not a woman who completes him. He seeks a woman who already exists fully, with whom he can build something that is not a shared escape but a real meeting. The nuance is immense. Fusion is a dissolving. Encounter is a shared presence. Only those who have become themselves can live a true encounter. If these words are resonating within you, perhaps something in your story was ready to hear them. Should you wish to accompany this reflection further, you can subscribe to this channel without hurry, simply as one places an intention. Other videos will come in the same spirit, in the same slowness. And now, let us continue. A question lives inside many women, asked only in silence, in those hours when the night no longer allows any inner lies. Why did I search so much in others for what I never looked for in myself? Why did I accept so many relationships that diminished me, when I sensed, sometimes from the very first moments, that something did not ring true? Jung had already intuited the answer. For as long as a part of us remains unknown to ourselves, it draws toward us, through a strange magnetic force, everything that resonates with that very lack of self-knowledge. A woman who has not met her own depth will attract men who have not met theirs. Not because she deserves it, nor because she is responsible for their immaturity, but because the unconscious always seeks and recognizes itself. This is a silent law, almost geological, of human relationships. And the only way to change what comes to us is not to look for something better outside. The change happens by becoming someone else within. Every genuine shift in the quality of the men you will meet begins with a shift in the quality of the woman you have become for yourself. Now picture another woman. Several years ago, she went through a breakup. A rupture that left her on the ground, as people say, but which in reality placed her in a country she had never before visited, the country of her own truth. For months, she refused to fill the emptiness. There was no rush toward distraction. She did not try to prove that she could still be desired. Inhabiting the silence was something she allowed herself to do. Within that silence, things she had forgotten began once again to be heard. An inner voice, weak at first, then clearer. Intuitions she had been dismissing for years. Desires that had never been given permission to exist. 2 years later, this woman no longer resembles the one she used to be. The way she walks has shifted. Her way of speaking has shifted. Her way of choosing has shifted. When she enters a room, without making the slightest effort, certain men immediately sense that she is no longer available for surface relationships. It is not that she rejects them. She no longer attracts them. Her inner frequency has changed. She vibrates, if I may use that word carefully, at a different depth. Only those who have themselves reached that depth can now truly meet her. Here is where the most disturbing truth hides, the one you may already sense without having dared to name it. Most women believe they are looking for a man. In reality, they are looking to find themselves through a man. And as long as this confusion remains, no relationship can truly nourish them, because what they wait for from the other can never give. No man, however wonderful, can fill the emptiness a woman has not agreed to look at within herself. External love can never replace the inner meeting each soul must one day make with itself. This is what Jung called, in a phrase of almost unbearable beauty, the most difficult duty of existence, to become what one is. Until that duty is fulfilled, at least in part, every love story turns into a disguised attempt to avoid the work. That is why so many relationships collapse. Not because the partners were poorly chosen, because neither of them had yet begun their own journey. A woman who has learned to be alone has accomplished something rare. Her solitude has been transformed into presence. She no longer flees the silence. Keeping herself company has become natural, the way one keeps company with a precious friend. This slow and sometimes painful but profoundly liberating transformation changes how she approaches love. She no longer looks for someone to escape herself. Validation of her existence is no longer outsourced. Filling a hole whose shape she never wanted to know has stopped being her unconscious mission. If she still seeks anything, it is someone with whom to share what she has discovered. The nuance here is fundamental. One is a disguised demand. The other is a true offering. Only men who have done their own work can receive such an offering without being frightened by it. The others will flee, sometimes after a few weeks, sometimes after a few months, saying they are not ready, that commitment scares them, that they need time. The truth is simpler and harder. They have encountered something they did not know how to welcome. This is not a tragedy. Every encounter simply reveals where each person stands on their own path. Here, now, comes what changes everything, that tipping point you may already carry without having been able to name it. As long as a woman seeks a man in order to feel whole, she will only meet fragments. But the day she accepts that she is already whole, that she has always been, that no man ever came to bring her a completeness that did not belong to him, that day, something turns over. She stops being a person who asks. She becomes a presence. And presence, in this world, are so rare that they cannot pass unnoticed. What deep men seek, what all deep beings actually seek, are not flattering mirrors. Presence are what they recognize, someone who exists fully, without needing the confirmation of the other. Someone with whom silence can settle without becoming threatening. Someone whose depth does not threaten ours, because it was won at the same price. Such a woman becomes, without even wanting to, a magnet for what is right, and a quiet repellent for what is not. Here, finally, the deepest truth reveals itself, the one containing all the others. Only a woman who has met herself can truly meet a man. All the others meet something else. A bandage is what they meet, a distraction, a proof, a refuge. What they encounter is not a being. This is neither a failure nor a fault. It is a stage. Until this stage is crossed, no relationship can truly nourish the soul. But once it has been crossed, everything becomes possible. Not easier, not faster, not guaranteed, but real. Such a woman no longer needs to be saved, and it is precisely this absence of need that makes possible a love that is not dependency in disguise. True love, the kind Jung spoke of in his late writings, the kind the ancients sometimes called the love between two souls, can only exist between two beings who do not try to complete each other, but to recognize each other. If something settled inside you while these words were being spoken, like a truth you were already carrying without being able to formulate it, then perhaps this moment is not entirely a coincidence. Something within you was perhaps ready to hear this precisely now. The solitude you may have lived, or are still living, is not a punishment, nor is it proof that something is wrong with you. It is a school, and this school is shaping in you a quality of presence that nothing else could ever shape. Women who walk through it do not come out harder, more closed, more distrustful. Greater depth is what they carry now, and this depth draws toward itself in a movement as inevitable as the tides, those who have themselves become deep. Whatever you have crossed, whatever you may still be crossing, has not been wasted. It has carved you. It has made you capable of an encounter you could never have lived before. Should this video have spoken to you, should something within it have touched a place that you recognize, you can subscribe to this channel, simply without pressure, not to follow me, but to continue listening to that inner voice that may have stirred within you during these minutes. Other reflections will come, in the same tonality, on what depth psychology can reveal about your own story. Allow me, in closing, to leave you with this thought. Do not try to become a woman that deep men will notice. Become the woman you truly are, in silence, in patience, in this long return to yourself. What you will then attract will no longer be the fruit of a strategy, but of an evidence. For at the end of this path, it is no longer you who searches. It is life that at last recognizes you.